Matt Steinmetz and Daryl the Guru Johnson with you on 95.7 The Game. And let's talk to Chad Brown, former All-Pro linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, also a football analyst for Compass Media Network. Chad, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Well, happy NFL Thursday to you. Looking forward to
Let's go.
Exactly. It's we're all looking forward to it out here. We're also looking forward to Sunday's game. Let me start with this, Chad. Kyle Shanahan for the Niners is starting his 7th year. They've been to 3 of the last 4 NFC championships, been to a Super Bowl. There's a feeling out here of incredible excitement, but also it's time to get something done. I'm looking at the Steelers. The Steelers haven't won a playoff game in 5 years. What's the mood in Pittsburgh about Mike Tomlin right now and about this season in particular for the Steelers?
Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record,
right?
Which is remarkable. So tip of the cap to him and the entire organization to be able to pull that off. But they've made the playoffs 2 of the last 5 years, but haven't won a playoff game, to your point. So I think there's a certain frustration in Pittsburgh outside of that facility. I had a chance to go back to Pittsburgh for an event a couple of weeks back and walk through the whole facility, gave some folks who I knew a tour out there. And they are optimistic. They are feeling really good. They are confident that Kenny Pickett is going to take a big step forward from year 1 to year 2. That's typically as a player where you make your biggest improvement. So I think the Niners are further ahead as a program and as an organization based off of playoff success and championship games that you mentioned earlier. But they should not overlook this Pittsburgh Steelers football team. The defensive models are very similar. Not necessarily the same scheme, but the way they play, very physical, very tough, very fast football. It's going to be a heck of a ball game.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait. And I want to ask you about the Niners quarterback, Brock Purdy. I remember the great rest in peace Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner had the movie The Bodyguard. And, Chad, I feel like Brock Purdy has a bodyguard in regard to Kyle calling the plays, all that weaponry on offense, like they can protect him. You played NFL defense. Can you share with us your thoughts on Brock Purdy, what he is and what he can be? Or do you think maybe he has to return to glass slippers?
I don't think there's a glass slipper or Cinderella component at all to Brock Purdy. I called some of his games when he was at Iowa State. I didn't think he would have quite the level of success that he had, but there was a certain composure and confidence to him, despite having some limitations on his skill set that was very NFL-like as a college player. And then I was calling the game for national radio where Brock Purdy came in and stepped in for Jimmy Garoppolo for the very first Brock Purdy start, where he became the first Mr. Irrelevant to complete a pass in the NFL, and then became the first Mr. Irrelevant to throw a touchdown pass in the NFL. And it just kind of picked up steam from that game all the way through that championship game where he was unfortunately injured. So if he's healthy and ready to go, I see him making a significant improvement. I just talked about Kenny Pickett making a big improvement from year 1 to year 2. Well, Brock Purdy would have that same opportunity to make that kind of improvement. Now, I know he didn't get a chance to allow the physical throwing work because of the elbow injury, but a lot of the mental things that you get a chance to do a deep dive in during the offseason, he will also benefit from that as well. I don't think Brock Purdy is going to fall off as a quarterback, and I think Kyle Shanahan, to your point, one of the more creative play callers in the league, clearly also has ways to either minimize or maximize his quarterback as far as that quarterback's importance within the game plan. And I would imagine for game 1 with Brock Purdy, with coming off the injury, this will be a game where Brock Purdy will not be featured as much unless needed.
Former All-Pro linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Chad Brown, joining us on 95.7 The Game. He's also a football analyst for Compass Media Network. I don't know if you guys heard, but the 49ers and Nick Bosa have agreed to a contract extension. And the way they tell it out here is that the 49er locker room was kind of sky high because apparently it was hanging over the locker room. Does that matter at all? I know Bosa's presence matters, but is there any psychological component to the 49ers feeling real good about the Bosa signing going into Pittsburgh?
I think there's a huge component to that. And I think we'll see that play out a little bit tonight in Kansas City with Chris Jones, their best defensive player, not being out there. I've been on teams where a guy is holding out, and it affects the locker room and the team in multiple ways. You've got to answer questions about this guy holding out, and you got to act like, hey, next man up, and we're going to be just as good as we were. No, there's a reason why this guy's holding on, because he's one of the best in the game. If you go out there without him, you are missing one of your key weapons. So you got to lie to the media. You got to put on a good face there. A critical situation. I was a linebacker who would, give the calls to the defense from the sideline. So if I'm looking at 10 guys in a huddle and my guy's not there, if Nick Bosa's not there, if Chris Jones is not there, I know we're not as good. I can be as confident as I want to be, but the facts on the ground are we're just not as good. And chances are whoever we're playing is going to attack that exact spot. So to bring Nick Bosa back to boost the locker room, to give those guys the confidence, I think is a tremendous thing for this defense.
Man, I agree with you, Chad. Let me ask you about a Bay Area kid who's on the Steelers, Najee Harris. He just came out and said, he admitted he didn't feel like he needed to work on certain things a couple weeks back, and I was like, okay, that I like hearing that. How did that go over in Pittsburgh, and where are you at just with his presence in the Steeler backfield?
Obviously, he was tremendous at Alabama, so I was expecting him to somehow meet that level. And I've called a couple of Steeler games, and I have to say I haven't been impressed. The Steelers' offensive line, wasn't great. That was certainly an issue. There's a reason why they went out and spent a first-round pick on an offensive tackle to try to prove that offensive line. And they brought in the guard from the Eagles to try to improve that offensive line. So I think they will be better. But I'm looking to see Najee Harris play at a higher level if he's going to be the player that I was hoping he would be coming out of Alabama. They added some guys in that backfield. Jalen Warren's back there, Anthony McFarland as well. So I don't know if they'll be as reliant upon Najee Harris, or is it going to be kind of more of a running back by committee until Najee Harris finally proves that he is the guy for that backfield.
Chad Brown joining us on 95.7 The Game, former All-Pro linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me just get your thoughts on give me a couple teams that are the cream of the crop in the AFC and the NFC, and what does Pittsburgh have to do to elevate themselves into that top group that you have?
Wow. Well, it's going to be a battle just for them to try to win or be second place in the AFC North. Obviously, Lamar Jackson's under contract now with the Ravens. That situation's settled. He's one of the most electrifying players in the league. Joe Burrow and the Bengals think they're in a championship window, and he's a top 3 quarterback in the league. He's definitely one of the elite guys. Deshaun Watson, I expect him to play better than he played last year for Cleveland. He'll be better. So the Steelers face an uphill climb just to try to win that division, and the AFC is stacked. You've got the Jets, who think they're in a championship window with Aaron Rodgers. You got Buffalo. They got Josh Allen. They got Gilmore. They think they can earn a championship window. Clearly, the Chiefs are looking to repeat. There's folks who are looking for teams like the Chargers to be part of this conversation. Jacksonville will probably be in the playoffs and win a playoff game or two. So there's some talent all over the AFC. So while the Steelers, certainly can look around at some of these teams like Buffalo and KC and the Jets, they got to, in my opinion, should keep their eyes down and focus on the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bengals to give themselves the best shot to win that division.
Chad, I never do this. My partner's eyebrows are going to go up because I'm going to do 2 questions for you. I got a friend, Tony, big Steeler fan. He's texting me, ask Chaz, he's still doing the thing with the snakes. That's one. And we just got back from Vegas, and I'll go casino on you. If you had to bet who has more sacks, TJ Watt or Nick Bosa, who would you bet on?
Okay, first one. Yes, I still do have some of my snakes. I'm not a professional reptile breeder as I once was.
Oh, wow.
I had a company called Pro Exotics Reptiles. I produced thousands of baby reptiles every year and sold them all over the globe, essentially. Now I've got a smaller collection, about 25 animals, not a ton. And most of those animals, actually, I own them, but they are at other breeders' facilities. So I've got a very small collection here at the office. And then I think, Nick Bosa is an incredible player. I did a coaching internship with the 49ers and was there during his rookie year. I saw things from him that I haven't seen from very many other players in the history of my career. So I don't want to, ever cast doubt upon Nick Bosa, but I think the holdout will probably affect him a little bit early. And T.J. Watt is certainly at the top of his game. So just because of the holdout and the maybe 1 or 2, possibly 3 sacks, Nick Bosa may miss here in the first 4 games of the season due to that holdout, I'll give the total sack number to T.J. Watt.
All right, Chad, let me ask you, yes or no, do you have a boa constrictor?
I do have a boa constrictor.
All right, what about a python?
I do have pythons.
What about a lizard?
I've got bearded dragons, and I've got a Mexican beaded lizard as well.
Man.
What about an armadillo?
Boy.
No armadillo,
Okay.
but I do have some geckos. I've got some garter snakes. I've got some rat snakes. And I think that's the extent of my collection currently.
All right.
Chad, I got to ask real quick, Steiny. If I'm correct, you feed the boa constrictors like rabbits, right?
I don't have any of the really large snakes that I once had. Once upon a time, I had snakes that were, 200
Man.
15 feet plus, that would eat rabbits. And I actually had one really large female that I would feed like baby pigs.
Oh, come on.
What are you? Wow. That's amazing, man.
But
Wow.
at this point, everything that I keep is small enough where they are more than happy with
Okay.
large rats.
Okay. Wow. Shout out ATCO Pest Control.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Chad, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And it should be a great game on Sunday. Everybody out here is looking forward to it.
It's going to be a great weekend of football. We got KC Detroit tonight. We got the Niners Steelers on Sunday. And then my Buffs, take on Nebraska, the hated rival, on Saturday. So
Look at him. Yeah.
All right.
Prime time.
Thanks, Chad. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Yes, sir.